Chapter 2. Visual Language, or the Spiritual Meaning of the Objects of Nature. In the first chapter of the Johannine Gospel, all things are said to have been created by the Logos, or Word, which, in its highest significance, means the divine intellect or thought. This pregnant utterance of the friend of Jesus has a profounder import than is generally recognized by commentators. It implies that the objects of nature are the externalization of the thoughts of God, the ultimation of the divine ideas. Hence, external things, as we call them, are the visible words of a spiritual language. That is, they are the representation of ideas to the mind by visible signs. Spoken language represents ideas by audible and articulate sounds. Written language does the same by visible characters. When we see the word tree, it suggests to our minds a certain idea or combination of ideas, and this is the only thing that we really perceive. But the word and the idea are very unlike each other. The connection is an arbitrary one, and the visible form only suggests the thought. So, when one pronounces the word house, the sound has no resemblance to the idea, and a person wholly unacquainted with the English language would get no conception of the object represented. It would have to him no meaning. The objects of the visible world are a sort of optic language. They excite ideas in the mind, and these are the only direct objects of perception, and in this way God speaks every day and in every place to the eyes of all men. Language, we are to bear in mind, is the representation of ideas by visible signs. But the objects of what we call the external world excite ideas in the mind, and hence may properly be called a divine language. The objects of nature are God's mysterious manuscript, in which his thoughts are written, and by Swedenborg's science of correspondence the soul can learn to read this arcane, divine language. Nature is a book, and we have as much reason to think that the universal mind, or he whom we denominate God, speaks to our eyes, as we have for believing that our intimate friend is speaking to our ears. This view is taken by David in the expressive language of one of his psalms. In the first chapter of Genesis, God is represented as speaking into existence the objects of creation, where the Deus Dixit, God said, as Augustine observed, signifies only the exercise of the divine volition and thought. The power of interpreting the visual signs of the divine language of creation and translating them into their ideas is a spiritual instinct, an intuitive perception, or an inspiration. It is partly acquired, or at least improved, by experience. As it was remarked in the previous chapter, all that we know of an external world is our own sensations. Hence J.S. Mill calls the outward world a permanent possibility of sensation. Ideas are the only objects of perception and of knowledge, and these are continually presented to the mind by the sensible world which perpetually goes forth from God and represents the thoughts of the divine mind. Our perception of these ideas, which we project into space and give to them an apparent externality, is equivalent to a constant act of creation by the divine being. There may be a far-reaching and profound truth in the theory of Malebranche that we see all things in God, or by virtue of the union of the human soul with the infinite mind. We do not perceive an external world. What the mind sees, and the body is cognizant of nothing, is within itself, that is, will have perception only of ideas that are present to the soul. Persons have been known to medical science who have come into the world with congenital cataract, and who in afterlife have been restored to sight. At first, they have not the least conception of the distance or externality of objects. Everything seems to touch the eyes, or in reality to be in the mind. This may not ease facts from the truth. In the spiritual philosophy of Swedenborg, it is taught that, in the other life, the scenery in the midst of which we live and move is a constant creation from ourselves and corresponds to our inward states. It is a projecting outward of what is really within ourselves and which is made to represent it. Its outness is only apparent. Nearness and remoteness see only feelings of sympathy or antipathy. Locomotion through space, or what appears to he such, is affected by a change of state, or, as it is called in the Scriptures, being carried away in the Spirit. In that realm of life, all outward things are the counterpart, the visible exhibition, of things in ourselves, and have life only so far as they are correspondences. In this world there is an inherent tendency, a spontaneous impulse, to express by some outward manifestation our internal states, though the expression is more complete. And we live in a world and in the midst of scenery created from our interior states of thought and feeling. But this law of correspondence extends through the whole universe, and is seen here as well as in the life above. It is only another way of expressing the necessary relation of cause and effect. Every object of the material world derives its existence from a spiritual idea or entity, of which it is the manifestation upon the plane of sense. The two are connected as an indissoluble unity, for an effect cannot exist without a cause, nor a cause without an effect. Spiritual things, which belong to the realm of causation, are the real things, and material things are their shadow or outward manifestation. The whole outward world is the existence of the spiritual world, or the realm of mind. The one is as the body and the other as the soul and man. I believe without a hesitating doubt that the whole visible universe, including our own corporeal organism, is only spirit manifested and made visible and tangible. If we could suppose the world of spiritual realities to be withdrawn or annihilated, the whole visible universe would disappear as instantaneously as you can snuff out a candle. The external universe is enclosed in the being of the world of mind, and is the permanent effect of an ever-operating spiritual cause. The seeming or quasi-externality of a visible object is no unquestionable evidence of its real externality. An amputated limb is not missed from the consciousness. The person who has suffered this mutilation feels it as much as he ever did, and it has the same apparent externality. He has even a sensation of pain in it. But is it external? By pressing one eye a little out of its natural position, and then looking at a statue, for instance, the Greek slave, you will see two of them, and both seem equally external, and yet it has never been claimed that only one of them is external. Perhaps in neither case is that which is seen external, but the object of perception is only an idea, and, for aught we know, the externality of both may be only apparent and equally unreal. For if the reader of this has not lived long enough to learn that things in their deepest reality are not always what they seem to be, it is to be hoped that he will live to be as old as Methuselah, if it be necessary. In order to incorporate into his mode of thinking and feeling the lesson taught in that profound utterance of Jesus the Christ, judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Within the compass of this brief sentence lies enclosed the unexpanded germ of the doctrine of Berkeley with regard to the external world. From that doctrine, when once established, there hang many important practical conclusions in relation to the connection of soul and body in the dominion of mind over matter. If all outward things are created by the Logos, then by the power of the Word and the spirit matter may be controlled, and a diseased body made whole.